The one with Rachel's inadvertent kiss is the 17th episode of the 5th season of Friends. This is directed by Shelley Jensen, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. This is a really solid episode. Personal highlights, I think, would be one specific moment with Joey, one specific moment with Chandler, and just all of Rachel. So I will go through each part of the narrative in turn. I will save Rachel's until the end. And there's part of the story focusing on Joey and a hot girl, as he calls her. Ross, now in his apartment, is performing for anybody in Monica's apartment. And Joey is waving to Ross, and a woman who lives in the apartment thinks that Joey is waving to her. And she seems to be interested in Joey, so Joey counts where she would be living, and he goes over to the apartment, but he miscounted. And he keeps ending up at Ross's apartment, and at one point he's wandering around just shouting "hot girl" with some desperation in his voice, and it's absolutely adorable. And then Ross actually meets this woman. She's called Jen. She's played by Samantha Smith, not aware, of course, that Joey was looking for her. And Jen ends up giving Ross her number. And Joey decides to have another go at finding Jen because Monica pointed out that he'd miscounted because some of the windows were actually the lobby, not an apartment. And this is just a bit that I absolutely loved. Even though I've seen this many times, I knew it was coming. I still laughed out loud when it happened because Joey goes to her apartment and he's counted correctly now. With Monica's help, he's actually counted correctly. He knocks on her door, but Ross was actually at her apartment picking her up for a date. So when Joey knocked on the door, Ross answered, and Joey thought he'd miscounted again. It's so simple, but very effective, very, very enjoyable. Phoebe is still dating Gary, and she's talking with Monica about how she's really excited to be in the beginning stage of a relationship where your hands are all over each other, and she asks Monica when that ended for her and Chandler. And Monica tries to say, "What are you talking about? We're still in that stage." And throughout the episode, she makes various attempts to try and prove this. And they have hot sex in the middle of the day, and they're going to dinner with Phoebe and Gary. And Monica is going to tell them about it. And it turns out that, not intentionally, Phoebe and Gary one-upped them by having sex in a public place. And Chandler happens to be in the men's room at that point when they tell Monica this. So Monica goes into the men's room. And Chandler was just so fabulous here. And I think that this is really important information for anybody who might be feeling like Monica. Because Chandler points out to Monica that he's, and I quote, "I'm more excited about where we are now." And Chandler is explaining to her that yes, that beginning stage where you can't keep your hands off of each other is really exciting, it's really thrilling. But as the relationship develops, that might dwindle, but what you have instead is so much deeper and more meaningful. And I think Chandler does a really great job of explaining this, and I think anybody feeling like Monica could maybe do well to hear that. I think that was very, very well done. And then Chandler did a happy dance because he was the one to solve a relationship problem, which was rather sweet. And then we go to Rachel, and I loved how this played out. Rachel has a job interview at Ralph Lauren, which she's very excited about, and she comes home after the interview devastated, annoyed at herself, because at the end of the interview, she kind of accidentally kissed Mr. Zelner. Mr. Zelner is a character played by Steve Ireland, and obviously Rachel thinks, well, that's it, I've blown it, and she gets a second interview. Excited, but also concerned that she only got the interview because she kissed Mr. Zelner. And I have to say, credit to her, she went to the interview and we the viewer could see that she had an ink stain on her lip, a rather sizable ink stain. And Mr. Zelner kind of tapped his lip as if to say, you have something on your lip. And of course, given what happened previously, Rachel thought that he was trying to get a kiss out of her. And to her credit, she basically went on this little rant about how she doesn't want the job that badly if it means having to sleep around with people. And I have to admire her for that, because she really, really wanted this job, but she wasn't going to get it that way. And I think that that's a very positive attitude to have. And she goes back into the apartment and says she'll never guess what happened, and everybody in the room taps their lips. And then, of course, she realises that she had the ink stain on her lip, and she gets another interview. And I have to say, she makes this really great, very well-written speech about why she deserves the job. And I'm not saying that anybody in an interview should copy her speech. It's very specific to the situation, first of all. But given the scenario, I think she fought a good fight. And it was really lovely to see her, standing up for what she wants and kind of apologising while also showing that actually her actions could be spun into a positive if you really wanted to see it. And I just thought it was brilliantly done. And of course, she got the job, and she then touched his groin, not on purpose. And I think she did the right thing in leaving before he had a chance to retract the job offer. And it's a new chapter for Rachel, and I just thought she was fabulous in this. And she had a few awkward moments, but I think where most of us, well, I certainly would rather curl into a ball and never see that person again, she didn't let it get in the way of her true dream. And I think that that's really admirable. So really brilliant performance from Rachel. I thought she did great. The whole episode is absolutely fantastic. Some really strong highlights, as I've mentioned. And while it might not be the most iconic episode on its own, I have to say I can't fault it in every aspect of this. I just really thoroughly enjoyed from start to finish. The one with Rachel's inadvertent kiss was a really fabulous episode, and one that I still find really funny, even though I've seen it many times. Definitely a solid episode, and one that I'm sure I'll always really thoroughly enjoy.